One of the things I thought about when I was coming up with videos for this channel was what kind of content I would do. I figure the majority of it would be videos of me going to cons, sketches, any unboxing videos, shipments, but I noticed I can only do that so often and most of that costs money. And I can't exactly afford to be going to a con every month, getting things unboxed all the time, commissions all the time. I haven't got a new commission for about 3-4 months now. Even then, it wasn't very much. It was at WonderCon. Didn't spend as much there this year. Anyways, I digress. One of the things I thought of doing was different stories about how I got into collecting, why I collect. And this story I decided to get into what first got me into collecting comics. Now, I started collecting comics when I was about 8 years old. Now, one of two things, or a combination of both of them, could be attributed to why I collect comics. One was that I watched a lot of cartoons, like Ninja Turtles, Transformers, all the things like that, G.I. Joe. And I was at an age where I was just starting to get interested in reading. Now, it was kind of hard for me to find things to read that interested me. Like most kids' books, they kind of talk down to you, or they're not that interesting. At least to me at that age, wanting something action, thinking a little more abstractly. So when I saw things like Ninja Turtles, I soon saw in stores, like we'd go to Save Mart, or I guess it was Smith's back then, one of our local chains. In the magazine area, there'd be comics right there between the frozen food section. And I'd see, like, Ninja Turtles. There'd be Archie, some other ones. Superheroes I've seen before, like, on the big screen, like Batman, but didn't necessarily appeal to me as much, but Ninja Turtles called to me. Watched it every day. Came home from school, watched it. Saturday mornings, whenever it was on, I just watched it. I had the action figures, all the toys. I had Ooze. I even had the cassette from the Pizza Hut promotion, coming out of their shell. I had everything. But I didn't have the comics. And that's probably one of the things that first got me into collecting comics, which is all those little things that adapted, cartoons that I watch. Though I know Ninja Turtles started out as a comic, but this was the Archie run, I believe, that adapted from the cartoon, so it was not so much based on the original series. Now, the other thing that contributed to me collecting comics was that I had an uncle who collected comics. Most of his stuff was in the Silver Age era. That's when I first started to read Green Lantern. And Green Lantern appealed to me back then because I was, as I said, just getting into reading. And one of the ways I really got into reading was thanks to my 5th grade teacher, who introduced me to science fiction. And Green Lantern, of course. Space cop. I was flying around, going different planets. Can't get any more science fiction than that. So then I first got introduced to Green Lantern through Hal Jordan. And most of the Green Lantern Corps, a few other series. I got into Spider-Man. Just kind of related. Everyone knew Spider-Man. But that's basically how I got into collecting. And when my uncle was moving, he moved from Fresno to Sacramento. He wanted to get rid of a lot of things. And one of the things he also got rid of was all his comics. And of course, knowing I was into comics, because all the Ninja Turtle stuff I had, and I would read some of his Green Lantern comics whenever he'd let me. He gave me tons and tons of comics. So at that point, I wound up getting into Aquaman, which I still love to this day. Green Lantern, which I don't follow as much now. A little bit of Arrow and Flash, but not too much. My uncle was mostly into DC, and as a kid, I was mostly into Marvel and Ninja Turtles. Read Spider-Man, a little bit of Batman, as you see behind me. Some Superman. X-Men here and there. Wolverine. Early 90s. He was everywhere. But that's what got me into comics. It's that connection I had with family and to my childhood. And it reminded me of my love for reading. So